So after the magic of 30 seconds, whoa, I'm back. Okay, so we are on the third section of our electronics slash mechanical, basically the feature set ranging from number 11 through what I'm calling number 17, even though I think there was only 11 on your list. 17 come from requests from users and a couple of additional things I thought about. So nobody's really had a chance to vote on these, but let me go through the advantages. So we'll start with the TFT. Generation 1 TFT, made by a company called OSD out of Florida. Generation 1 TFT, when we put it in 2 years ago, was cutting edge technology. As of today, it is no longer cutting edge technology. Notice the difference, just first and foremost, in thickness. Generation 2, very thick, about 3 ounces heavier than Generation 1, about very thick, about 3 ounces heavier than Generation 2. So on a scale, it looks like this, Generation 2, Generation 1. But what else happens here? Generation 2 has also given us the ability to have a reflective background, which means that we can have a backdrop that works better in sunlit environments. So if you have your back to a window in a conference room, it also gives us the ability to lower the power consumption of the screen while getting a brighter display. So we're able to amp up the brightness of the display, giving you better results, giving you a better picture. At the end of the day, half of our users don't use screens at all, which I am a proponent of. But for those users that do use screens and have their reasons for using screens, we are updating this technology to a Generation 2 product. Again, lighter, less power consumption, better brightness, and better resolution in a sunlit or backlit environment. Simplified Bluetooth, I mentioned. This was not on our list, but this was something that I needed to cover. Simplified Bluetooth is the ability for us to plug in a single dongle, bypass any software, and have it simply work on your writer paired automatically based on a code that we set in the writer here at the factory before, or the Bluetooth dongle before we send it out to you, based on your writer, and boom, you have a Bluetooth that works anywhere and everywhere. All right, moving on. So now we have the next big statement. Flatter keys. Flatter keys. This seems to have been a huge point of contention. Let's go through the original concept of the greater depth keys. In the original concept, these stem back all the way to the Gemini Revolution. They have a little bit more concave nature to them. Why did we do that? Well, we created a more concave key because what we found is when we were testing a light spring design, we found that people lost their position. They couldn't tell exactly where they were when the keys were too light, so you rest them. They push back on your fingers, which give you a certain amount of force. Push down, push up, you could feel them, just like feeling the texture on an orange or feeling something smooth and flat. You need to have a certain amount of force to be able to determine what that is. So in this case, when we had a lighter touch, we went to a flatter key top. We also experimented with rough key tops. Well, the downside of rough key tops is you can't put any sort of pad on them or they're no longer rough. And then in addition to that, that roughness wears off after time, and we go from there. So what have we learned? We've learned that we're apparently not that smart. So we are creating a second generation of key top. Notice the very small concave nature. Actually, it shouldn't be very small. This key is what you will find on a Stentura machine in terms of concavity of depth, of rounding, of all of those things. Here is a round key. Again, very limited concave nature, but also on the bottom of the key, we have that little upturn that you're so familiar with on the round keys. On our number bars, we will have still have the little pass-through, so it'll look more like this, where it passes through. It doesn't have the little concave nature in the number bar. However, everything else matches the way that you'd be on the full number bar. You'll see that. Now, where do these work on? These work on Generation 1 riders, and these work on Generation 2 riders. There was mention by somebody, I don't remember who now, that they like flatter keys, but they want to pay for them. Understandable. However, if I ever got into what it takes to actually manufacture something like this or go through that, well, that's just not doable. I'd love to have a lot of things I don't pay for, but at the end of the day, we still have to be able to make, design, buy, and then turn around and pay our employees. So flatter keys will be available for both Generation 1 riders and Generation 2 riders, and we can switch them out. Snap on and off wide keys. I made mention to, I think, Heather Rutler, about, or she asked for snap on wide keys. in the original Revolution design or Revolution Grand design, I thought it'd be a really good idea to make user replaceable key tops. Meaning key tops that could be popped on and off by the user so that you wouldn't have to send them to a service center to be replaced. Yeah, that didn't really work well. Didn't work well for us, didn't work well for the consumer, and the biggest complaint was that the keys would get hung up on something and then popped off unintentionally. Next thing you know, they need to be glued back on, and just didn't work well. So I am exploring a better option for doing snap-on and snap-off keys, but at this point, snap-on and snap-off wide keys are not in the mix of features that will become available. I just don't have a good way to make them secure yet removable, if that makes sense. Move the function keys. The question was, can we move from Ian, from Jenny, I think from one others, to take these function keys and move them down lower so they sit down in this range? On Generation 2, we most definitely can move the function keys. We can move the function keys on Generation 1, but it poses some more significant challenges in that we have to change a whole spring design and some other stuff. We have done it for a couple of people. It's not ideal, but in Generation 2, that is something that we can do as requested. Quieter. That I'm going to get into when we get into the mechanical design of the machine. Gen 2 is inherently much more quiet than Generation 1 for a variety of reasons, other improvements, but those are mechanical. And then the next request, I think, was for user changeable vowel height. That's the ability for the user to be able to pull this key off or snap something onto it that gives us a user changeable vowel height. Again, this is one of those things where I don't have a good answer for you yet. This kind of stems back to those user changeable key tops. So the way that I've thought about it is if you could make these keys come off and put a new key on, but that gets into, can those keys be popped off unintentionally? Can they come off in the middle of a job? Can they not be fixed on? And can they make your life difficult and in turn make the calls to support difficult for us? And at the end of the day, it's all about making your life better, which in turn makes our life better. So if it goes to saying, if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. So we need to make you guys happy so we can be happy. And we're kind of proceeding from there. The next video set that I'm going to be releasing, I'm going to cover the IT writer from a mechanical standpoint, a Generation 2 standpoint, and I'm going to talk to you about what that means and what improvements we've made, and I'm going to show you some of those improvements, tell you why we've made those changes, and what we are gaining from them, and in turn, what you guys gain. And then at some point in the next few days or week or so, I will post all of the potential upgrade paths for everybody, what you can upgrade to, how you can upgrade. Now, let me be clear. First off, IE users, every one of you, the IE is my baby. I love the ergonomic machine. I like the traditional machine. What I don't like about it is it feels to me like you have something that is just sexy and small and sleek and cool looking, but is not as good for you physically as an IE. Our IE users, what we've had to deal with is she's ugly, he's ugly, it's ugly. The rider has never been inherently as friendly as I wanted it to be. So I have been working extensively, this is a current IE, on a new IE design, a new fixture design that takes all of the features enhancements I'm going to talk about in the mechanical version of the IT and puts it into a much sexier, much sleeker package. And at this point, we do not have that package available. So Generation 2, full Generation 2 releases will be available for the IT. Partial Generation 2 releases will be available for the IE. And then when the new shell design becomes available for the IE, we can take the stuff that we did in this version of the IE for you to give you some of those features like increased sampling rates, USB multi-port, USB file access, support for 32GB cards, etc., and move those boards into the new sexy design for the IE, which will take some time, but we will get there, and I look forward to talking to all of you about it. So the next video, which you'll see in probably 15 to 20 minutes, I will put up a discussion about the IT mechanical changes and what that means to you.